I tend to poll low. It is what it is.
Hey viewers, I want to take a quick poll. Raise your hand if you are a hardcore Democrat and will vote blue up and down every ballot. Thank you. Now raise your hand if you are better described as in the anyone but Trump camp. Thank you. And the results are in, and you're both winners because I have today's presidential poll numbers, and they show very good news for Kamala Harris and very bad news for Donald Trump. And in just a minute, I will share what arguably is the single best poll that reflects America's rejection of the dark energy that is Donald Trump, and why Kamala Harris went from what Republicans falsely reported as the most unpopular vice president ever to surging and making their red-hatted heads spin. It is Saturday morning as I record this video, and I have some fresh-baked polling results for you to feast on. An Economist poll released today shows the median range for Harris at 47.1% and the median range for Trump at 44.4%. That is almost the exact opposite of what it was before President Biden announced he was stepping aside. And if you look real close, you'll see her low range beats Trump's high range. Now, those are national numbers, and Democrats can certainly gloat over them because the turnaround is epic. But we all know that presidential elections are won and lost in the battleground states. So what's going on there? Here's a revealing breakdown from MSNBC and Steve Bannon, and then I will share the poll that I think qualifies as the Trump campaign ending bombshell.
The new stuff that we got this morning from New York Times and Siena College shows that Harris may actually have a chance in North Carolina. Tell me about what that does to the race.
We were looking at this race and thinking all this is going to come down to Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And now we know better. As these polls indicate, there are a series of paths that are opening up that should make Republicans awfully nervous. North Carolina is a state that Trump wasn't concerned about, especially when Biden was in the race. And now all of a sudden, Harris not only is competitive in the state, she might actually have a lead in the state. That's 13 electoral votes that can very easily change the nature of the entire contest.
Did you hear that? The pendulum is swinging so strong for Harris that a state thought to be out of play is back in play. And why is that? Is there one polling factor that rises above them all that gives Harris an advantage that Trump just cannot overcome? I think so. Have a listen to another MSNBC discussion that leans into the poll I'm about to reveal.
What is the Harris Walz campaign offering that's making people switch sides?
They are bringing back normalcy. I mean, the whole MAGA vision is about bringing us back to a time where you and I didn't have the same rights, where as women, we didn't have the same rights and we're second-class citizens. So you now have a mega MAGA misogynist ticket, the most anti-woman ticket we've ever seen. And the Americans are looking at this going, we do not want this anymore.
People want to look and say, listen, these are two people who said awful things about women. And by the way, there's a baseline here. We talk about sanity. Why are we voting for rapists? And why are we voting for people who self-identified as doing awful things to women when you talk about the tape on the bus with Donald Trump? And for me, it's very basic as a Republican. You don't vote for bad people.
What I love about that clip you just saw is that it featured the thoughts of Tara Setmayer, whose career includes 27 years with the Republican Party, and GOP Congressman Denver Riggleman. And as you may have gathered by now, the bombshell poll I'm revealing that Trump cannot overcome is about women voters. Have a look.
What's the big reason why Harris is gaining in the polls?
Yeah, all right. It's the gender gap. It's something we've spoken about in politics for a long period of time, and we're really seeing it here. All right, let's take a look at the national polls first. This is Democrat versus Trump margin, and I want to point out this is average across the same pollsters. Look at Biden versus Trump, women and men. What we see is the gender gap is working in Donald Trump's advantage. He holds a 9-point advantage among men against Joe Biden, and Joe Biden only held a full 4-point advantage among women. But take a look now. Look at how the race has changed. Instead of having a 4-point advantage among women as Biden did, look at Harris's advantage. It leaps up to 11 points. In fact, men haven't changed their voting patterns at all, at least in the national polls. A 9-point advantage for Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, a 9-point advantage against Kamala Harris. What has occurred is women voters are flocking to the Democratic ticket. Look at that. Look at that. 4 points versus 11 points. That is the reason that Kamala Harris has turned this race around.
You said this is nationally, right?
This is national.
So what about in swing states?
What's going on in the swing states? So let's take a look at those Great Lake battleground states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. This is among registered voters. What do we see here? It's a very similar picture. that surge among women. We're seeing the same thing in those battleground states as we saw nationally. Kamala Harris up 17 points among women.
The momentum behind Harris and Walz is very energizing, and the poll numbers are cause for optimism. However, we must not let this positive news lull us into complacency. The Electoral College map remains a complex battlefield with several key states still hanging in the balance. To secure a victory against Donald Trump, we need every supporter to stay energized, volunteer, and most importantly, show up to vote. Remember, polls are just snapshots, not guarantees. Our collective action in these final moments will determine the outcome. So let's channel this enthusiasm into relentless effort and turn this surge into an undeniable mandate for change.
And if Donald Trump wants to pick a fight over our most fundamental freedoms, we say, bring it on.